Hi, Dr. Phil.
Good morning.
So I have an update for the show this morning. Nathan and Janine decided last minute to drive here. They live just a few hours from Los Angeles. They wanted to drive to bring their 4 children.
Oh, they brought the kids?
Yeah, they brought their kids. Janine's mother, who has not seen the children in 4 months, is desperate to see the grandkids. So we thought that maybe arrange a little reunion after the show.
Well, I'll be cognizant of it, but I'm really curious who's going to take the high road here and who's not. I'm going to wait and see.
All right, thank you, Dr. Phil.
Thanks for the update.
Today on an all-new Dr. Phil.
Having my mom live with us was a complete nightmare.
She said her mother turned her in.
Child Protective Services wanted to talk to me about dirty dishes.
And called 911 on her grandchild.
You called the cops on a 6-year-old because they wouldn't give you your phone back?
I didn't call.
Yes, you did.
Then she kicked her out.
This is my home. This is my car. Sylvia!
How do you feel about the fact that she's homeless and living in her car? Today's going to be a changing day in your life. You've never had anybody working harder to bring you to the threshold of change than right now. Okay. Now, I have a question for you guys. How many of you would invite your mother to live with you if she needed a place to stay? Raise your hand. Okay. Okay, now, of those of you with your hands up, how many of you would still allow your mom to live with you if after she moved in, she watched what you were doing and reported you to CPS for being an unfit parent? Well, Janine recently allowed her mother, Liz, to move in with her and her husband, Nathan, and their 4 children, but she ended up kicking her out after suspecting her of reporting them to CPS. Now, what Janine and Nathan don't know is since then, 70-year-old Liz has been homeless and living in her car. Take a look.
Having my mom live with us was a complete nightmare.
I was excited because I would be able to see my grandchildren all the time.
But the truth is, my mom, Liz, didn't want the kids to be around her.
Liz has even gotten as far as putting a deadbolt on her bedroom door to help ensure that the kids wouldn't go into her room.
I was supposed to help with the housework, help take care of the kids.
Rather than offer to help out around the house, she would just complain about how things weren't getting done, how there might be dishes in the sink, how laundry was piling up, rather than lift a hand.
My daughter's home was infested with roaches.
So one day there was a knock on the door. It was Child Protective Services.
Child Protective Services wanted to talk to me specifically about dirty dishes, that I was neglectful of the kids.
I was furious.
I did not call Child Protective Services.
What happened was Liz had sent the pictures she took of dirty dishes to a friend, and that friend in turn called Child Protective Services on me.
I told her that, if she's going to threaten our children, she needs to find another place to live.
After living with them for 5 months, they kicked me out of the house.
I don't need the stress of my own mother creating issues like this in my life. Who needs the drama?
Why'd you move her in to begin with?
Well, the situation was she contacted me, I want to say around December of last year,
Right.
saying that they were raising her rent and she wouldn't be able to afford to pay her rent and eat. So my husband Nathan had this idea that because we had a spare room with a private bathroom that we could offer her that particular room.
So it was actually your idea to invite your mother-in-law to move into your house.
Yes, sir.
There's a fresh one.
In fact, knowing the drama that was there, I was hesitant about the idea.
Right.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, again, I'm a person who always believes that family fights for family.
Sure. So how did she treat the children?
Once she moved into our home, she was
awful.
She was awful to the children.
How so?
She would scream at them.
She accused your 2-year-old of losing her cat.
She did.
So when she moved in, she brought her cat.
She did bring her cat. And one day, it was a nice cool day. The kids were coming in and out, so the patio door was open. And our youngest inadvertently startled the cat, and the cat just kind of bolted out the door. We helped Liz put up flyers, and she went door to door, and the cat never came back. We put out food for it and everything like that, but the cat never came back. It's not like my 2-year-old just wanted to kick the cat out.
You say that she then while she was there, 5 months total, right?
Yeah.
That she took pictures of dirty dishes and the general house and showed them to a friend.
Correct.
Was your house so dirty that it could be photographed and shown to a friend?
Well, here's the thing, Dr. Phil. We had 7 people living in the house. I worked. My wife was going through health issues at the time. And her mother was also living in the house, who could raise a finger to help with some of those issues. But she didn't. Rather than do that, she would isolate herself in her room. She would, again, I mean, she wasn't doing the things that we had in the agreement, such as helping, such as watching the children, such as doing some of the things that would have helped alleviate some of those issues that she was complaining about.
Okay, well, now answer my question.
Yeah.
Was the house so bad that you could take pictures and shock somebody with it?
I was not feeling well, and so dishes had piled up. And, of course, we have 4 children, so there are toys on the floor and just, kids throw clothes on the floor and don't pick them up immediately. So at that point, if I wasn't doing it, it wasn't getting done. And so, yeah, the house did get bad. And I don't know if a picture of a sink full of dirty dishes is completely shocking, but that is
Was it more than that? I was trying to say, was that because you wouldn't let us in the house?
It wasn't.
Because usually when we have somebody on, and particularly if the house is a question, then they always say, yeah, come shoot the house and see what you think.
Yeah, I think what it was is Nathan and I have opposite work schedules, and so we just didn't have an opportunity to come out where we would be together.
It's just, it was unusual because I've been doing this. We're in our 18th season, and I probably haven't had 3 people that didn't say, sure, come in and shoot, and you're one of the 3, and you waited 5 days to send in photos. So.
I didn't know that you guys wanted photos. That was originally asked of Nathan, and I only learned.
Well,
and with my work schedule, unfortunately, I had just forgotten.
Yeah, because, here are the photos. I get the suspicion it doesn't look that way all the time.
No, it doesn't.
Of course not.
No,
There's
again,
6 of us that are eating, and dishes pile up after 3 meals a day with 4 kids, and,
And how old are the kids?
13, 6, 4, and 3. This was just a picture that we snapped as we were walking out the door to drive here.
So she sent it to a friend, you say, who then you think the friend reported you to CPS?
Actually, I'm not sure. I don't know if it was Liz or if it was the friend or what the case is, but the only person in the house that would have taken a picture is Liz.
CPS did contact you. And they come out without telling you, and here's what they said. On June 27, 2019, the Department of Child Safety received a report of suspected child abuse, neglect, of abandonment in your care, custody, or control. The report has been unsubstantiated, and based on the results of the investigation, your case will be closed. So they came and investigated and said, I don't see a problem.
Correct.
That rises to the level of being actionable, so they closed the case, and that was over with. So they disagreed with your mother.
Correct.
Correct. In fact, I heard on her recording that she said the house is infested with roaches. That was also something that CPS said, and they didn't see any sign of any activity like that.
How do you feel about the fact that she's homeless at this point?
I don't really know if she's homeless. That's what she tells me. I might sound unsympathetic, but she was given a place to stay and something that was really beneficial for her financially.
It put my kids at risk, and that, for me, was the last straw.
All right, well, Jean's mother, Liz, is here and has been listening backstage. So Liz says she did not call CPS, but the conditions in Janine's and Nathan's home are completely deplorable, according to her. So we'll hear her side of the story when we come back.
Since being kicked out of my daughter's home, I feel like they've written me off, like they threw me out like a piece of trash.
And later,
my grandchildren are very important to me.
Have you asked how they are over the past 4 months? Have you? None of that has happened, Liz. None of that. Since Liz had a hand in me being reported to Child Protective Services, I've written my mom off. Now I call my mom Liz instead of Mom because I don't feel like she acted like a mother at all. At this point, I don't talk to her. I don't communicate with her. I don't even know where my mom lives.
She said she was moving with a friend. She had some church friends who were helping her out.
I admit I am a bit nervous about seeing Liz again. She's very dramatic and she likes to play the part of the victim. I am interested in seeing her reaction to what Dr. Phil has to say about all of this.
Well, Janine and Nathan say they thought it would be mutually beneficial having Janine's 70-year-old mother, Liz, live with them when she couldn't afford her building's rent increase. But Liz says she was not prepared for the horrific living conditions she had to live in. Take a look.
When my daughter and her husband kicked me out of the house, I stayed at a motel for 5 days, and then I didn't have any money left, so I had to leave the motel. For the last 4 months, I've been homeless. Since being homeless, this is my home. This is my car, Sylvia. I've been living out of my car. Everything I need is right in here. On this side, I have my purse. I have my grocery store down here, some library books, blankets, and a pillow. I have a bag down here that has my toiletries because I sleep in the back seat. And then I have all these plastic garbage bags, towels, laundry, clean clothes. I never in my whole life thought I'd be living out of my car, especially at my age. I get up in the morning and I go someplace where I can get a cup of coffee, and then I will use their restroom and wash my face, brush my teeth, change my clothes. I've been to a truck stop to take a shower and they charge $12. It's been a week since my last shower. I feel like I smell even though I use deodorant every day. Most of the time I will drive to a library. I spend a lot of time in libraries because I can charge my tablet and my cell phone. For the evening, I'll park in a parking lot from a motel, put my keys in my purse so nobody sees them. I do this because I have to do it. I fear that the rest of my life will be spent living out of my car. Janine and Nathan know that I'm homeless. I feel like they've written me off, like they threw me out like a piece of trash.
Oh, Liz.
Hi, Dr.
Oh,
Phil.
we have a step for you right here.
Thank you.
Okay, you've been listening to everything so far.
Yes, I have.
Why did they throw you out?
I was very uncomfortable with the condition of the house.
Okay,
And yet you did nothing to help those conditions.
well, let me ask here, because I understand that there was an agreement when you moved in, that you guys discussed this. It wasn't just like you just fell in one day.
Correct.
You actually had an agreement. And exchange for a place to live, that you agreed that you would do the following: that you would help with babysitting, that you would help clean the house, that you would pay $600 a month in rent, $50 for cable, so you would pay a total of $650 in cash, and then you would help with child care and house cleaning. But then you said the house wasn't clean, so are you criticizing yourself?
No. When I first moved in, that house was in deplorable condition. There was always food on the floor. When I first got there, I did laundry for 8 hours, and I couldn't do anymore. Stuff would get spilled on the table or on the floor, and it would stay there for 2 or 3 days until somebody decided to finally clean it up.
But I'm saying, but why did you not do that? I mean, if that was part of your agreement in moving in, and you focused on that and thought this is deplorable, why not pitch in and clean up?
I tried.
You said the kids complained about bug bites.
They would come into me every day. Oh, Oma, I have a bug bite here.
You said you thought it might be cockroaches.
It might be. The cockroaches were all over the place.
But you say you did not call Child Protective Services.
I did not call Child
But
Protective
isn't it
Services.
true that you talked to a mandated reporter who
Yes.
did call Child Protective Services?
Yes, I did.
And you knew that when you told them that they were going to call Child Protective Services.
I asked them, please don't call. Please
They're a
don't call.
mandated reporter. They have to report. That's literally what that means. Mandatory reporter.
And when they showed up the next day, I was very distraught.
Yeah.
My grandchildren are very important to me. My family is very
They're
important to
very
me.
important to you. Have you asked how they are over the past 4 months? Have you? Have you even texted asking how one of those children are?
I have texted you.
You have not texted me and asked me how my children are, how I am, how my husband is. None of that has happened, Liz. None of that.
Okay, Liz admits that she reported this information to a mandated reporter, and clearly that means it has to be reported to CPS. So that was a little fuzzy until it happened, but she does admit to calling the police. We're going to find out why next.
you scared her. You terrified her.
Every time she sees a police officer, she cowers a little bit.
You called the police on a 6-year-old because he wouldn't give you your phone back? And later, if you guys are living in a bad mess,
Let me ask you this, Dr. Phil. If she thought it was so deplorable, why'd she even move in?
My 6-year-old granddaughter loved to play games on my cell phone. One day, my phone was missing. My granddaughter would not give me my phone back, and Janine would not tell her to give me my phone.
Liz told my 6-year-old that she was going to call the police and have her arrested.
I went to the neighbor's house and asked them to call the police. The neighbor called 911.
When the police officer realized that nothing was going on, he said, "Had a nice day," and left. At this point, my children have all told me that they don't want to have a relationship with their grandmother, and knowing how my mother acts and how dramatic she is, I don't blame them.
you called the police on a 6-year-old because he wouldn't give you your phone back?
I didn't call the police on a 6-year-old because she wouldn't give me my phone back. I called the police because my daughter refused to have her daughter return my phone. She knew exactly where it was.
I didn't know where it was. I had asked her several times, give Alma her phone so that she'll leave the room and you can just stay in here with me. And you scared her. You terrified her.
In fact, to this day, every time she sees a police officer, she cowers a little bit. She thinks that they're there for her.
She literally told me she does not want to see you because you called the police on her.
You called the cops on a 6-year-old?
I didn't call.
Yes, you did. Now, don't play semantics with me. You called the cops on a 6-year-old.
I wanted my phone, Dr. Phil. She had looked on my phone. She had read through all my text messages. I felt very violated.
After you gave the phone to the kids
And you
unlocked.
thought that was a police matter.
I told him it's not an emergency.
But you called 911, which is an emergency number.
I really don't want to argue with you about it. It's just,
Well, I wouldn't either if I were you.
I don't want to argue about it.
I mean, come on. I mean, I'm just talking about common sense here. If you guys are living in a place that is really a bad mess.
Well, let me ask you this, Dr. Phil. If she thought it was so deplorable, why'd she even move in? And then why did she complain when we asked her to leave?
Well, let me ask you this question. Why is the house in such bad array to begin with?
It's not. It was in a mess because I was not feeling good at the time. But under normal circumstances, it's not.
Now, come on, don't try to defend me.
No, I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to defend.
I'm just trying to be reasonable. There's two sides to this, and if the place is a pigsty, it's a pigsty.
Yeah, no, and again, it wasn't the best situation. You know, again, I was working. I was coming home after work, helping out as much as I could. We had a 13-year-old who, after school, she was helping. And again, we had another person in the house who was supposed to be helping, but wasn't pulling their weight. Because of that, you know, again, obviously, Liz likes to always be the victim in a lot of situations. What will happen is she'll make up a situation such as, you know, again, she didn't call the police, yet she just admitted she called the police. You know, she went next door. I didn't give them the local number. You know, it wasn't an emergency, and yet they responded in an emergent fashion. She always comes up with these stories and somehow is the victim of these situations that she creates herself.
Gotcha. I'll get that in a minute. Now answer my question.
Yes, sir.
Why are you raising 4 children in a house that is in such disarray? You weren't feeling good? Got it. There are a lot of other people in the house, and you weren't an invalid.
I aired those same grievances. I shouldn't be the only one responsible for picking up after everybody. So that is something that I aired my grievances with, including with Liz.
And Dr. Phillips.
And I have had my discussions with Nathan about it, too. So, I mean...
and you weren't helpless, right?
No, I still got up and cooked dinners and took care of the kids. And
you know, here's the problem I've got. And listen, this is just common sense. And look, I see a lot of stuff sitting up here.
Sure.
And you guys are calling in the government to your family. You don't want to be doing that.
No.
Yeah, and that's exactly why we'd had enough with Liz.
How do you feel about the fact that she's been homeless for 4 months?
I want to know why she's homeless. She moved in with a church friend, and I know she did. Why are you homeless, Liz?
I have never lived with a church friend. My church put me up.
Phone.
My church.
You texted me that lady had crazy rules that you didn't want to live with.
No, that wasn't a church lady.
Oh, whoever it was. However, my point is you would rather live in your truck than to follow somebody's rules.
Well, coming up, we're going to meet Liz's sister, Patrice, who says her niece has always been disrespectful to her mother. We'll be right back.
you can say bad things about me and
I didn't
say
say
I'm
anything
not a
bad
good
about
person.
you. You've never met any of my children, the oldest of which will be 14. So how can you know anything about me? I have an Aunt Patrice who is Liz, my mom's younger sister. In my eyes, my Aunt Patrice is ignorant and naive. It's probably been about 20 years since I spoke to my aunt. I don't speak to her because she just takes my mom's side and they talk badly about me together.
My sister told me that Janine called her a bitch and cut her out of her life. And that sounds exactly the way that I've been treated by Janine.
We're talking this hour with Janine, her husband Nathan, and Janine's mother Liz, who were living together up until 4 or 5 months ago. Janine says she and Nathan kicked her mother out of their home after she caused them to be investigated by CPS. Now, they've not spoken to Liz, who says that she now lives in her car. That is, they haven't talked until today. Now, Liz's sister Patrice is going to join us on Polycom, and Patrice told producers she wanted to be here to support her older sister, Liz, because she believes that Janine and Nathan treated her sister cruelly and unfairly. So, Patrice, thank you for joining us.
Dr. Phil, thank you so much for having me here. What I'm hearing here is really crazy. I've spoken to my sister, and it's true, I have not spoken to Janine in many, many years.
You've never met any of my children, the oldest of which will be 14. So how can you know anything about me? Other than what Liz tells you.
You know, Janine, you can say bad things about me and
I didn't
say
say
I'm not
anything
a
bad
good
about
person.
you. I asked you
That
a
I
simple
don't
question that you're avoiding.
And your memory is different than my memory. We spoke on the phone. You called me a bitch. I said, I do not want to discuss this anymore, and I hung up on you. And I know I haven't spoken to you since then. I'm just truly upset that my sister is homeless and living in her car.
Have you offered her a home?
I offered my sister help.
Well, I have a question for you, Liz.
Yes.
Why are you homeless? Why do you not get a place to live? Why do you not get a job to supplement your income? Why do you not live? Hell, you could live in a shelter if you needed to. There are places you can live in your town. We have checked the rent range there, and you can certainly live in a place.
The rent range is about $850 to over $1,000 for a one-bedroom apartment, and I live on Social Security alone.
Right.
And I can't afford that.
But you can make a certain amount of money. Trust me, I've done the math. We've figured this out. Why are you living out of your truck? That's not a requirement. You don't have to do that.
I've stayed a couple of times in homeless shelters. I was very afraid of the people that were there. I'm trying to save up money. You need for application fees, and then there's the deposit, and then your first month's rent. I just don't have that kind of money.
Mm-hmm. And Liz, here's the thing. We had opened our home to you. In fact, the first month's rent thing. The very first month, you didn't even pay rent because, again, we knew that you had moving expenses, things like that. We would try to be there for you. We try to help. We asked you to, in part, help us in return. The reason that you're no longer in that home, Liz, is because you didn't want to be a part of that family. And not only did you not want to be a part of that family and do those little things to help, is, again, you brought additional drama into that family. As Dr. Phil said earlier, you don't bring in the government because then they take over control. I don't want to lose my children to something like that because you didn't want to help be a part of a family, that you wanted to be by yourself, that you went to the extent of putting a deadbolt on an interior door, bedroom, to keep kids out of your room, out of your things, then be a part of a family.
I got to take a break. Janine wrote to the show to ask me if her relationship was too toxic to fix. Well, maybe.
My grandchildren mean the world to me.
I don't trust Liz around my children.
There have been a few instances where when Liz was watching our grandchildren that she actually lost them.
When it comes to my children and their grandmother, they're terrified of her. My fear is that Liz will die alone because she's driven everyone away with her toxicity.
Dr. Phil, is there anything I can do to get my family back? My greatest fear is never seeing my grandchildren again.
Well, Janine and Nathan say they have a hostile relationship with Janine's mother, Liz, kicked her out of their home after believing she contacted CPS, which she indirectly did. Janine says, quote, "I don't want to get a call saying Liz is dead, and I didn't make an effort on repairing the relationship."
Which is why I wrote into the show.
Right.
I can see Liz laughing over there, but that's why I wrote into the show, so that I never have to have that question of what if. This is my what if. I am making that effort by being here, by, you know.
Really? This is your effort?
It is my effort. This woman has made me so angry my entire life, and this is just the head of it.
Would you like to know what I think?
Yes.
Please.
It's very clear to me that there's a lot of emotional baggage here.
Yes.
You're not responding to your mother based on what she's doing today. You're responding to what she did when you were a teenager, what she did when you were getting married, what she's done in the years since then. You got a lot of built-up, unfinished emotional business with her. And the same thing with you. You've been hurt along the way. You've been rejected. You've been criticized. And so all of this is going on in this toxic circle. Mm-hmm. And I can promise you, having buried my father and having buried my mother and having buried Robin's mother and Robin's father, we've been through this.
Right.
And what seems monumental today is going to seem very trivial when there's no chance for a do-over. Because when they're gone for
right.
a long, long time.
Right.
So what I'm trying to say to all of you is that it is worth putting in some effort with some guidance, because I don't think you wouldn't deteriorate into looking backwards. And let me tell you, when you look over your shoulder, your history does become your future, because you drag it all from behind and put it in front of you, and you just keep living that legacy over and over again.
Right.
There comes a point when you got to say, not even God can change what has happened. The past is over. The future hasn't happened yet. The only time is now. We've got to live in this moment and start here and now. You weren't a very good house guest. That's not a question.
No, I wasn't a good house guest.
You were miserable, and you spread that misery around. You weren't a very good house guest. That's not a question.
No, I'm not I'm not thinking of an answer.
That wasn't a question.
Yeah.
You weren't a very good house guest.
No, I wasn't a good house guest.
You were miserable.
I was miserable.
And you spread that misery around. You two have a family.
Yes.
And it's a nuclear family, and you're entitled to do it the way you want to do it. And she either needs to compliment that or stay out of it. And she did raise you. She might have a few good ideas. Don't you miss having kind of a mother-daughter talk with her?
I've never had a close relationship with her, and that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
Is that...
But wouldn't you like to have that?
I've always wanted that.
Dr. Bill, they say you're not supposed to have a favorite child. Janine was always my favorite child.
You know we're airing this, right?
I know. I know. And I love her so much. That's why it's been so difficult. And Nathan, I love Nathan.
I'm going to get you a family therapist that's going to sit down and set up some ground rules. I tell you, if I could work with you guys weekly, I swear I could fix this in my sleep. Seriously. Just some really minor changes, some minor tweaks can fix this situation where you can start to build on positives here. And if I make that arrangement, will you participate in that?
I'll participate in it.
You'll participate
Yes,
in it? You'll participate in it?
Yes.
Okay, and can we start out as a show of good faith today? The 4 children are here, by the way. They drove in. They drove in today. And would you guys be all right with her getting to see the grandkids today?
I think if she's willing to make those steps, I'd be okay with
Would
that.
you be comfortable with that?
It's fine.
Okay?
It's fine. I'm just.
I have a favor.
Take a risk. Take a risk. Come on.
It's hard for me because
I understand,
You know,
but we're gonna take
the
it-
position that I was put in to potentially lose them.
I understand,
hard.
But we're
but
moving forward, right?
I'm trying, and it
Yeah.
doesn't happen like
I
that.
didn't want you to lose them, Janine. I didn't.
okay, but we're talking about moving forward here.
Yes.
We're
Yes.
talking about
I
moving
know.
forward here,
I
you
want
can.
to see them so
you know,
much.
don't talk past the close. Okay, they both said yes, so learn to take yes for an answer.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to get some help. We're going to set up some boundaries here and define some ways that this can move forward a step at a time. We're not going to move her back in and put her in charge of parenting or something. We're just going to do it a step at a time. All right. Hey, if you're looking for the perfect holiday gift, I've got one for you, and that's coming up next. Well, Jason Flom is a Renaissance man. He's CEO of Lava Records, launching huge careers like Katy Perry and Lorde. He's a founding board member of the Innocence Project, helping wrongly convicted people on death row. He's a host of one of the most popular podcasts, Wrongful Conviction, and now he can add author to his resume. His first book, well, it's just not an ordinary book. It's a children's book called Lulu is a Rhinoceros. And he says the inspiration came from a trip to South Africa. We decided to test the book out on some 7-year-olds. It got 2 thumbs up in a big way. Take a look.
Yes, I am Lulu. What I am not is a bulldog. In fact, I am not a dog at all. I'm a rhinoceros. But the only thing I don't have yet that I really, really want is my rhino horn. Hi, I'm a rhinoceros. You don't look like one to me. If I only had my horn, they would finally see the real me. Let's try this ice cream cone on for size. I don't think rhino horns are supposed to be this fluffy or stinky. You're a peculiar looking rhino. Did you say rhino? I am a rhino. How did you know? We're in the rhinoceros enclosure. So of course you're a rhino. My name is Lulu. Who are you? I'm Flom Flom. I'm a tick bird. Every rhino has a tick bird, and every tick bird has a rhino. Except for me, that is. Well, I don't have a tick bird. Well, if you need me, and if you need me, then why don't we? Yes, I am Lulu. I am a rhinoceros. Yay! So who can tell me what they thought of that book? So many. Emma.
I love the book because it's loving people and accepting people. I love the book because it felt like the book was like loving us and like saying, it's okay, you feel like that, so we'll let you be it.
What about South Africa inspired you to write Lulu is a Rhinoceros?
Well, I work with an organization called VetPaw. It's Veterans Empowered to Protect African Wildlife. And this is a group of U.S. military veterans who are in Africa arresting poachers, breaking up poaching rings, saving the rhinos and the elephants, and training the African park rangers in U.S. military tactics so that they themselves can avoid being killed in this terrible fight that's going on down there.
And you do this in your spare time,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. So, so I was there, and I always say this when I do readings for kids. So I was down in South Africa with the guys on the ground, and I got to get up close and personal with rhinos. And it was just an unbelievable experience. They're like dinosaurs mixed with dogs. I mean, they're just like, they're these big, friendly, beautiful, gray, giant dogs. But, you know, but they're critically endangered because of poaching. And so I came back, and I was on the couch with Lulu, my bulldog, and I was telling her about the trip, and come on, don't look at me like that. You talk to your dogs, too. Or cats. And I came back, and so I'm sitting there talking to Lulu, telling her about the trip. And she looks me right in the eye, Doc, and she says, well, I'm a rhinoceros, too. I said, what are you talking about? You're obviously a dog. You're small and furry, and you're on my couch. And she looks me back in the eye and she says, well, can't you see I have short legs, a big body, and a flat head? I only run fast for short distances and I'm clumsy. And she says, and I burp and snore and fart like a rhino. I'm a rhino. So I said, well, in that case, let's tell the story. So I thought, Doc, if we could create a little hero for kids who feel left out, put down, or bullied because the way they look, the way they feel, or the way they are, let's do that. And that's what we set out to do.
Well, and that's really the message. And is when kids read this, and I've listened to kids that have read it, and I really think that Sophie Corrigan, who has illustrated this book, has made all the characters in the book so approachable and so relatable that, you know, kids really feel close to them. And when you see Lulu and some of her predicaments and stuff here, they really relate to it. And if they feel different, if they feel set aside, and if they look in the mirror, which is, you know, the real key, they look in the mirror and feel different than what they see, this is something that they can relate to and see in their minds, and it can be very cathartic for them to experience this. You heard the 7-year-old saying, you know, I feel love in the book and think the book loves me, and that's exactly what you're looking for, right?
No, that's exactly right, and it's been such a satisfying experience. I never could have expected it. I didn't know what to think, but the fact is, I enlisted the help of my daughter, Allison, because she's an actual writer. I'm not a writer. What do I know about writing children's books? Nothing. I just had this idea. And so Allison helped me write the book, and then this wonderful, wonderful illustrator, Sophie Corrigan, who is working on her own books. Not Bad Animals is one of them, where she teaches kids about animals that are not bad, that we all think are dangerous or whatever. Sophie was really sort of a godsend, and working with my daughter was such a thrill. And now, of course, here we are on Dr. Phil talking about the book. I mean, who knew?
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Well, listen, the book is Lulu is a Rhino, and everybody take a really good look at it, because it would be so great to give this to your kids. Just put it under the tree, put it in their stocking or whatever, because it's something they'll read over and over, and it's got a great message. I highly recommend it. I psychologically endorse it, and the message, I think it is great. So,
and we have a surprise, right?
I'm handling this.
Oh, Jesus. Well, I may not get a return invite after that one.
I'm handling this. I want to say thank you to all my guests today, especially my former good friend, Jason Flom. Make sure to get yourself or a friend a copy of Jason's book, Lulu is a Rhinoceros, which is in stores now. And I did have a little surprise for everybody. Everybody in the audience is going home with their very own copy. Okay? And on a completely different note, make sure you listen to Jason's podcast, Wrongful Conviction. He truly is a Renaissance guy. Talk about a range to go from something so sweet and loving to working with people that are in the darkest hours of their life. So in my new true crime podcast, A Family Slaughtered for Teen Love, Mystery and Murder Analysis by Dr. Phil, is available now. On March 1st, 3 members of the Caffey family were brutally murdered in their home. The father survived. The eldest daughter, Erin, was nowhere to be found. In episode 3, the intruders claim Erin was the mastermind behind the attack on her own family. Erin insists that she was the victim. In my exclusive interview, I go behind the prison bars where she speaks out for the first time ever. She was never questioned by police. She never spoke in trial. This is the first time she ever talks about the murder of her family. So be sure and tune in for that. We'll see you next time.
The best advice Dr. Phil gave me today was, from today on, forget about yesterday. Just keep going.
My mom and I have been through a lot, not just this year, but my entire life, so it is going to take baby steps to really get through anything like this.
Just see my grandchildren and daughter again. I can cry. It was the best thing ever.
Dr. Phil, thank you for giving us the opportunity to even attempt to make this work.
Dr. Bill, thank you so much for everybody on your staff. I can't thank you enough. I sincerely hope that my daughter and I will be able to get a good family relationship again.